I am Doomsvince, and this is day 141 of Spawn Year.
This show just took a turn for the bizarre. I'm not sure what I think about some of these choices in plotting, but I can certainly say this show isn't remotely boring anymore. The best way to summarize this episode is to imagine posters for it as if it were an adventure serial. See Jason Wynn put on the war mask of Genghis Khan. Spawn turns into Terry again. Wanda is pregnant with the child of a Hellspawn. Wait a minute, what? So Al Simmons couldn't give Wanda a child, but as long as it's in the form of a healthy adult male, his rotting filet demon self can? That's certainly interesting, and definitely counts as a consequence of his unconscionable actions. The episode is really plot-heavy, mostly positioning characters for a season finale, but it continues its exploration of themes from previous episodes, ties in story elements I thought had maybe been abandoned, and it tries its darndest to answer the big question I asked yesterday. What's so special about Spawn that sets him apart from other Spawns? Spawn begins to redeem himself to a degree when he rescues Forsberg, finally taking Cog's advice when he told him to find someone in life he trusted. Spawn seems to hope his old commanding officer might be able to help him on a new, more honorable path. Certainly, he does this for himself as much as for Forsberg, but frankly, the world needs Spawn to break Hell's hold on him or it's in grave danger, so it's not as selfish a choice as it might seem at first glance. As we've seen until now, except in the first season, the easy thing is for Spawn to let his evil shape him, and that's what he generally was doing. It seems he had to take an action even he can't believe he took before he was ready to grow up and become the kind of man he can live with. There's also a flashback revealing that Al was the one sent by Wynn to capture Forsberg for helping his enemies. It was because of Al Forsberg was thrown in a hole all these years in the first place, so he owes it to Forsberg to rescue him. I'm also fascinated that Spawn decides to wear Terry's face again, this time to take his place in Terry's cell after Wynn captures him, so he and Wanda can escape. He uses the same deceptive tactic he once used for pure selfish pleasure to save the very people he wronged in that form. Spawn is learning how to wear a mask for the betterment of others, and while he's literally pretending to be someone else, just as he did when his motives were sinister and duplicitous, he's also pretending to be a better man for the right reasons, and that's helping him to become a better man overall. I'm impressed to see Spawn learning from his mistakes. By wearing Terry's face again, he illustrates that he's come to realize how reprehensible an act sleeping with Wanda like that was. Had he just simply rescued them without this, it wouldn't have meant anything. We know he's obsessed with the idea of Wanda, so of course he rescues her, but the way he does it tells me he's learning and changing. And as Spawn is reinventing himself in a redemptive way, Jason Wynn continues to try to gain more power. Now that he's a free agent, he no longer has to pretend to be anything other than what he is, a dangerous, power-mad megalomaniac. While Spawn wants to lose a mask that represents evil, Wynn seeks another mask that represents the same thing, the mask of Genghis Khan. By eventually taking off a literal mask and ridding himself of the shroud, yeah, this Spawn has goals and purpose and stuff, Spawn will metaphorically put on a new mask as he reshapes himself into something better. As Wynn puts on Khan's mask, he is metaphorically taking one off, or at least that's what he thinks. Wynn believes he's worthy of the mystical power the mask possesses, almost as if trying to force himself into the same evil power Al so desperately wants free from. And so for Wynn, putting on the mask is revealing to the world the real Jason Wynn. Except he's wrong. He tries to steal it from Zhang Lao, who serves heaven and keeps the mask out on a shelf for all to see. I guess he's not worried. Anybody foolish enough to put it on would suffer the same fate Wynn does. Lao says, "You do not have the wisdom to wear the war mask." Wynn has blind ambition, a profound ruthlessness and lack of empathy, but apparently he's no Genghis Khan. So the mask destroys Wynn's face and reveals the real him after all. The face of a man who foolishly gives up what power he has in the blind pursuit of unlimited power. He can't pass himself off as the suave, benevolent politician he used to pass himself off as with that face. I'm glad it didn't work, too, because I didn't want to see Wynn running around saying, "Smokin'" and "Somebody stop me." While Wynn continues to be a two-dimensional, purely contemptible bad guy with no human redeemable characteristics at all, this series is doing something with it in contrast with Spawn's character. One wants to shed his humanity, and the other is trying to gain his back. There's certainly some truth in these exaggerated, larger-than-life characters. How interesting is it that Wynn accidentally gave Spawn what he wants, incredible, unimaginable power, by sending him to hell? Perhaps that's ultimately a sign of his lack of wisdom. And, as is often the case, perhaps people who are uninterested in power but have noble aspirations, as Spawn seems to finally be exhibiting, are more suited to wield power. Finally, Wynn and Spawn both have clear desires, and neither man can have exactly what he wants. To be better men, each would have to allow himself to give up his impossible ambitions. Spawn wants to return to his old life, but that's impossible, both because of what he has become and because it would destroy 3 people's happiness. Wynn wants unlimited power. Spawn kinda has what he wants, but even if Wynn were a Hellspawn, he would be the slave of a master, and that power, or so we're told anyway, isn't limitless. What I take from all this at the end of the day is that, as I've discussed previously, serving evil is a choice, and that choice is made out of primal desires and instinct, desires like possession and control. To avoid that evil is to sacrifice those unrealistic and sometimes dangerous desires for the greater good. To want to help instead of harm more than you want whatever it is you want. Outside of the abstract philosophy discussion, there are problems within the actual narrative. The way all these characters are brought to Chinatown at the same time is sloppily conceived. Wynn just happens to go to Forsberg asking about the mask. At the same time, Spawn thinks to rescue Forsberg, and Terry finds Wynn and gets captured just around the time Spawn gets there so Spawn can save him. Jade suddenly makes the leap from not wanting to kill Spawn because he's so much nobler than other Spawns, which is working for me now, to let's make out, which seems to come out of nowhere. Maybe I could buy Jade eventually falling for Spawn, but this is too fast and I think undermines her character to a point. Like, she finds something endearing about a man, so he's instantly irresistible, even though she's throwing her whole life and career away to do this. Otherwise, I was once again taken aback. This show has come full circle, and even with some weird narrative choices, I think I'm even more intrigued with it than first season. If only all of Spawn year had my mind working like it was today. Signed, Captain Logan.